So, time for another tip video. Today I wanted to talk about different tips that I can show you, or different fields of study that you should learn that apply to deduction, that can be applied to deduction. I touched on this a little bit earlier when talking about different studies that we can all do. Like, for example, I'm studying art and applying that to my knowledge of deduction. But these are going to be more specific skills that I think everyone should have at least a baseline knowledge in. That'll help them apply it to deduction. The first is a twofold skill set, microexpressions and body language. These two kind of go hand in hand with each other. Microexpressions are useful for getting information about a person just at a glance. You know, they're fleeting. Microexpressions can be fleeting. I once deduced someone was impatient with me just because he had like a contemptful smile, which is like a half grin on the left side of the face. Usually, that's how it usually presents. Like I said, microexpressions are fleeting, but if you can catch them, if you know what you're looking for and you can catch them, they can tell you a whole lot about a person's mindset and what they're thinking. Then there's body language. One time when I was out at dinner with some friends, I just was able to determine from my waiter's body language that he was impatient and, that he wanted our orders in a hurry, even though we were on his only table. I don't really understand that. Point is, you can get a lot from a person with these two fields. Microexpressions can be quick, hard to catch, easy to miss, but if you can catch them, they can tell you a great deal about what's going through the person's mind at the time, and they're great for catching lies in the act. Whereas body language can tell you a lot about what a person wants, what a person is thinking, even how they live their daily life. So that's the first of these skills that first thing that I wanted to point out that we study. I might come back later on and tell you a little bit more, go more in depth about these things like body language and microexpressions, but they're harder to teach, and it might be easier for you to just study those on your own. But I might come back later on in another video and teach a bit more in depth about that. If you did want more information about that, Observe Entertainment deals a lot with body language. Also, microexpressions can be found in this book. This is where I got my baseline knowledge about it. I've done further study on microexpressions on my own, but Deduction Guide by Louise Blackwood is a great place to start if you're looking for microexpressions, body language, and even the next tip in this video, which is graphology. Graphology is the study of handwriting. I mentioned this in my last story. I was able to determine one of the main things that I picked up from this case was that I picked up his handwriting was different from his grandmother's handwriting, and that pointed me in the right direction on that case. Again, handwriting can be found in this book. Handwriting is important because you can't always be there to meet the person hand to hand or face to face. Sometimes you need to see them. Sometimes all you have is a note or something like that, and you can get a lot from the person based on just their handwriting. I was able to one time read a note, and just based on the handwriting, I was able to determine which of my coworkers wrote that note, and then was able to confront them and ask them about it later on, what they were trying to get across. Then there is the next tip is about health conditions. Now, this is an easy one for me because I have a background in medical knowledge. I took I studied several medical classes and health classes in school, so I have a baseline of medical knowledge. Not everyone can do that. I don't suggest that everyone who's a deductionist go out and get a medical degree or anything like that. But there are some things that you need to keep in mind about medical deductions. For example, mental illnesses can present in a way that might influence someone to act or think differently than you might have predicted. And that can influence your deduction. Or health conditions that present physically, like diabetes, for example, can present in several ways that might cause someone to think different or buy something different or not buy something that most people would be fine buying. And those are things that you want to keep in mind if you're making deductions. Is medical history might play a part in the deductions you make. That go more toward like advanced deductions. So, like for example, if you notice someone wearing a diabetes bracelet or a medical bracelet band, that might play into a deeper deduction that you make. The final one that I think is important and not often touched on is what I call digital deduction. That's basically deducing something about a person that you've never even met in person. The reason I think this is so important is because we spend more time talking to people on these or on computers than face to face than you ever do in person. So there's a lot that you can determine about a person without ever even seeing them. Thinking like Sherlock, he has been looking into photography, specifically like how it's possible to determine what kind of camera someone was using when they took a picture. He uses a website called Photo Forensics. I pointed him to this website. But what Photo Forensics allows you to do is you can post a picture on that site, and then it will give you feedback telling you what kind of camera was used, how high the quality was used. If it's been photoshopped, it can tell you if it's been photoshopped or edited in any way. So things like that are something he's looking into learning. You can determine things about a person, like what time they posted something. That can tell you if they're in school or if they're in a different time zone or region. That can tell you some of their life choices as well, like if they have to get up in the morning, if they can't stay on their computer past a certain point of the day. So there's a lot that you can pick up from digital deductions as well. Those are all the tips that I had today, just things that I think everyone should, if they're planning on pursuing deduction, they should give a little bit of time and thought to these areas as well. Again, I might go over later on and do more in-depth videos about each of these subjects, but I want to just group those together for this one. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.